Hello, this is Sean Moses from Practical Human Design, www.practicalhumandesign.com. Thank you for joining me. I'm recording this series for Goddess University and my good friend Phyllis. I hope you enjoy it. Okay, we're now going to tackle a question that a friend of mine emailed me, and that is, he does everything right. Why is it not enough? And this really has led me to really try to understand design from a case of relationship fulfillment. Why are some relationships simply unfulfilling? She is a wonderful person, she does everything right. Why am I still lacking something? He does everything right, he's a great lover, he's a great father, he's this, but there's still something missing. So just to kind of go back, I think it's important to define what I personally mean when I say a fulfilling relationship. So a fulfilling relationship is one where, for sure, you're not constantly fighting, where you don't have to be, where you don't have to shout to be heard and to get your needs met, and where you don't feel trapped or abandoned, where you don't have to leave the relationship to grow as a person. So from my experience doing readings, a lot of intimate relationships can be considered to be unfulfilling. While I certainly don't have the data on the exact percentages, I would estimate, and also from my own experience here, I would estimate that at least half of the people I do readings for will ask why they feel either trapped, unloved, misunderstood, or even sometimes disrespected by their significant other. 90% of the issues that I see whenever I'm given this particular question is immediately evident in the human design chart, and it's often grounded in two very specific areas. Firstly, these individuals, this couple will likely have a very strong single gate connection, but a very poor overall configuration. Or on the flip side, they're with a partner who dominates them on so many gates, channels, and centers that their needs can simply never be met. Secondly, and this is probably the more important issue, they didn't enter the relationship in the first place correctly for their particular type. So what I mean by that is this. If we take, for example, a projector type within human design, they have to be invited into relationships. Without an invitation, they can never be recognized. So over time, their needs are not met adequately and they become bitter. Also, when they realize that the relationship is not right for them, they can't exit the relationship until they're invited to leave. This is simply because they're a non-energy type. They lack a defined sacral center. So when I, for example, see projectors, as I often see, who do a lot of the chasing in the early part of relationship, more often than not, they're deeply unfulfilled as a result of not being recognized. So again, because I do a lot of relationship analysis for couples, one of the things that I'm often asked is, will talk therapy help, or will us learning how to communicate, help us to achieve a better union? I believe this is very unlikely. The reason for this is pretty simple. Our designs are fixed. Of course, you have the neutrino transit field. That this occasionally adds new channels, gates. So for sure that there is that aspect. But most parts of ourselves are fixed. At least the parts we should make decisions from. No matter what happens to the neutrino transit field, if, for example, you have sacral authority, that is always going to be your particular authority. You're always going to have to wait for that guttural response, to make a decision. In the same way that if you have splenic authority, you're always going to have that in the moment awareness. And then of course not be able to take things in very deeply as a result of that particular authority. So because our human design is fixed, for a limited amount of time, whenever you engage in something like counseling, you may see a result or an improvement from that counseling. It's just, causality. Hey, you talk about your partner opening up, he or she opens up a little bit more. However, the ability of an individual to successfully undergo counseling and make a sustained change will be directly related to the number and to the types of open centers they have and the overall profile. The more open a person is design-wise, the more likely they'll be open to outside influence. This influence, of course, may come from either their ajna, the emotional center, the G center. So, for example, if somebody's open in terms of their ajna, they can be influenced by logic. If they're open emotionally, they can be influenced by feelings. If they're open through the G center, that search for love can open them up. So in a majority of cases, though, talking through it won't cause long-term change. We always revert back to our design. And what I mean by that is this. Let's say, for example, a 2-4 profile dates a 3-5 profile. The 2-4 profile is more inwardly focused, and the 3-5 profile will always feel like, hey, I'm more into you than you are into me. This is just the way with these types. So talk therapy in that particular instance won't, in my opinion, create that consistent long-term change that is the goal of talk therapy. I wouldn't necessarily say one is lost if you're in a marriage where you're not being recognized or not being heard, not being understood. It certainly isn't a case that, oh, you have to go and divorce this person, or you have to pack your bags and leave. And I certainly would not advocate that, unless, of course, you feel it's time for you to leave, but that's your own decision. But I certainly am not pushing anybody to end their relationships. So there are some simple techniques that use the human design system to create harmony and spark. For example, let's say you have a projector type. It's all about creating recognition for what makes them special and communicating this to the projector. And here's the important bit, in a way they can understand through their design. So you really, really have to understand their design, what they're looking to experience because of their overall design configuration, and then speak to them and recognize them through that configuration. Thank you very, very much for joining me, and I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. You can get in touch with me at www.practicalhumandesign.com. Alternatively, you can email me at Sean, SEUN.Moses, MOSES, @gmail.com. Thank you and goodbye.